Think for a moment about the incredible feat of engineering behind medical implants. You know, tiny biosensors, neurostimulators, even drug delivery systems working inside us.
Yeah, and doing so accurately for potentially years on end.
Exactly. But hitting that ultimate level of precision and reliability, that's always been the huge challenge. Traditional microscale manufacturing, well, it has limits.
Limits that lead to variability, maybe reduced effectiveness, and sometimes, inconsistent results for patients.
And these weren't just like abstract engineering problems, were they?
Not at all. Those limitations directly impacted how well and crucially how long these devices could function. Patients needed better, so the whole approach needed a fundamental rethink.
Right. And that's really the mission for us today in this deep dive, exploring how one prominent medical device company, we'll call them CMR, tackled this head on.
They didn't just tweak things.
No, they went all in on advanced nanomanufacturing. And our insights, they're coming from a case study published literally today, May 27th, 2025. It's titled Nano-Manufacturing in High-Precision Medical Device Production, CMR.
So that's our guide for today.
Yep. We're going to see how CMR moved beyond the micro world and really harnessed the nanoscale.
And it's not just tech for tech's sake, right? It's about how working at this incredibly tiny scale translates into real improvements for patients.
Absolutely.
This study shows how things like nanoscale materials, precision lasers, and molecular self-assembly went from, lab concepts to actual solutions.
Okay, so let's start with the materials. That seems fundamental. Traditional materials were a bottleneck. How did CMR use nanoscale engineering there? What did they actually do?
Well, they essentially started engineering materials right from the molecular level up, building them to have very specific properties.
Specific.
Like three main goals. Better biocompatibility, making them work with the body. Much better durability, so they last longer. And maybe most importantly, reducing the risk of immune rejection, minimizing that defense response.
So definitely not your standard plastics or metals then. What kind of advanced stuff are we talking about?
No, not at all. The case study mentions things like nanostructured polymers. Think of arranging polymer building blocks in really specific nanoscale patterns for better strength and flexibility.
Like microscopic scaffolding?
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah.
And bioactive coatings, special surfaces designed to interact positively with tissues, maybe encourage cell growth or stop bacteria sticking.
Okay.
And also hybrid nanomaterials, combinations of different nanoscale bits, engineered to have multiple useful properties at once.
Wow. So by controlling things at that tiny level, they could basically design the perfect material for the job.
Pretty much, yeah. And the results were significant. These materials led to implants that weren't just tougher, but also much better tolerated by the body.
Ah, so they function reliably for longer.
For much longer, exactly. And without causing those adverse immune reactions, that's a huge win for patients needing long-term implants.
Makes perfect sense. Okay, so you have these amazing new materials, but shaping them into the complex, tiny structures needed for implants, that's where precision laser fabrication fits in.
That's right. Traditional machining just isn't precise enough when you're talking nanometers. So CMR adopted ultrafast laser technology.
Ultrafast, like the femtosecond and picosecond lasers mentioned in the study.
Exactly those. They deliver energy in incredibly short bursts.
Femtosecond, picosecond.
Yeah.
Those are just mind-bendingly fast. What does that speed actually do for the manufacturing process?
Well, because the pulses are so short, they remove material with extreme precision but generate very little heat.
Ah, and heat is bad at this scale.
Very bad. Too much heat can damage the material's structure and undo all that careful nanoengineering. These lasers let them carve intricate micro and nanostructures onto implant surfaces without messing up the material itself.
And these tiny surface patterns, what good do they do once the device is implanted?
They make a huge difference in how the implant integrates with the body's tissues.
Like creating a better grip.
Sort of like microscopic Velcro, yeah. It improves cell adhesion, helps reduce inflammation right after surgery, and can even speed up healing around the implant. It's all about creating a smoother interface between the device and the body.
That's a great analogy. Okay, advanced materials, precision shaping. Now, for something that really does sound like science fiction, molecular self-assembly. For drug delivery.
Right. But it's real. This is engineering happening literally at the molecule level.
Oh.
CMR designed these things called nanocarriers.
Microscopic delivery trucks.
Essentially, yeah. Tiny vehicles engineered to spontaneously assemble themselves into specific structures. This study mentions lipid nanoparticles, polymeric micelles, dendrimers.
Self-assembling. Wow. So instead of a drug just flooding the whole system, these carriers take it somewhere specific.
That's the idea. They can encapsulate a drug, travel through the bottle, and then release the drug only at the target site, say a tumor or damaged tissue.
And you can control the release.
Exactly. You can control how much drug gets released and over what time period, very precisely.
Which sounds to the key to reducing side effects, right?
Well,
If the drug only goes where it's needed.
Precisely. It boosts the drug's bioavailability at the target, minimizes those off-target effects that cause so many problems, and just makes the therapy much more effective overall. It's a level of control you just can't get with older methods.
This is all incredibly sophisticated stuff. But implantable devices. The regulatory side must be intense. How does nanomanufacturing play with compliance and quality assurance?
You're absolutely right to bring that up. The medical device world has incredibly strict regulations, and for good reason. Patient safety is everything.
So what did CMR do?
They built a really robust quality assurance system right into their nanomanufacturing. This included things like real-time nanoscale metrology, measuring things accurately as they're made.
Making sure those tiny features are perfect.
Exactly. And they used AI-driven systems to spot defects, tiny flaws you'd never see otherwise.
AI defect detection. That's impressive. What about biological testing?
Yeah, the case study highlights both in vitro lab testing and crucial in vivo validation studies testing in living systems.
To see how it works in a real biological environment.
Right. It's a multi-layered approach to ensure safety and effectiveness. By meeting and often exceeding standards from the FDA, the EU MDR ISO guidelines, they actually managed to streamline the approval process.
Wait, so being more advanced and precise actually sped up regulatory approval. That seems counterintuitive.
It does, but by demonstrating such high control and quality, they built confidence with the regulators. It showed the process was reliable and the end product safe and effective. That led to faster approvals, faster time to market.
All while maintaining safety and efficacy. That's key.
Absolutely. Rigor and reliability are hallmarks of well-implemented nanomanufacturing.
Okay. Technology, regulations.
Yeah.
But the proof is in the pudding,
Okay.
right? What did the data validation show? Let's talk clinical trials.
The results were pretty compelling. The case study reports a 40% increase in implant longevity.
40% longer lifespan? That's huge for patients.
Massive. Fewer replacement surgeries, more stability. And on top of that, a 25% improvement in patient recovery times after implantation.
Faster recovery, too. Why was that?
It was attributed directly to that enhanced biocompatibility and the reduced inflammation from the nano-engineered surfaces we talked about. The body just healed better and faster around the device.
Wow. Longer life, faster recovery.
Right.
Those numbers really hit home. And you mentioned faster regulatory approval impacting the market.
Definitely. Getting to market quicker gave them a significant competitive edge, especially in really demanding areas like cardiovascular, neurological, and orthopedic implants.
Being first with better tech is always an advantage.
Absolutely. It positioned them strongly in these high-growth sectors.
Okay, makes sense. But what about actually making these things? Did nanomanufacturing help with production efficiency? Costs.
Yes, that's another key benefit the study points out. The precision of nanofabrication and things like self-assembly led to a, get this, 30% reduction in material waste.
30% less waste.
Mm-hmm.
With potentially expensive materials, that must save a lot.
Directly impacts the bottom line, yeah. Plus, nanomanufacturing often involves more automation.
Less manual work.
Right, which lowers labor costs and makes it easier to scale up production when needed.
So it's not just better devices, it's a smarter, more efficient way to make them, which could potentially make them more affordable.
That's the hope and often the reality. Lower production costs mean you can offer these advanced devices at more competitive prices. That increases accessibility for patients and helps healthcare providers manage costs too.
It all connects. So looking back at CMR's journey with this, what were the big wins? The main achievements?
Well, first, clearly, revolutionary medical innovations. They really pioneered nanoscale precision in this field, setting new standards for performance, durability, safety. This opened doors for things like personalized medicine, better health monitoring, advanced therapies.
They became leaders.
Absolutely. Second, expanded market reach. Their success attracted partnerships with top healthcare providers, research groups, other biotech firms. They built a global distribution network, North America, Europe, Asia, becoming a trusted supplier worldwide.
And the third achievement, which feels like the most important,
has to be enhanced patient outcomes. Ultimately, all this tech, the better performance, higher efficacy, improved safety, it all translated into tangible benefits for patients. Better long-term health, fewer complications, higher satisfaction. That's the real impact.
So wrapping this up, the key takeaways from this deep dive.
Yeah.
It seems clear, nanomanufacturing isn't sci-fi anymore. It's here, and it's fundamentally changing industries like medical devices.
Right. That atomic level control, using advanced lithography, deposition, self-assembly, it's not just about smaller, it's about fundamentally better performance.
And the data is crucial. That validation proves reliability, meets regulatory needs, and actually speeds things up.
Which gives companies like CMR that adopted a real competitive advantage both technologically and in the market.
Plus, it's interesting that these methods can be more sustainable too. Less waste, potentially less energy.
That's definitely an added benefit, aligning with broader environmental goals.
So it leaves us, and you listening, with a pretty big thought. If we can now engineer things with this kind of control right down at the molecular level,
Sure.
what medical breakthroughs are next?
Yeah, what challenges that seem impossible today might become solvable? And alongside that immense potential, what new ethical or societal questions might we need to consider as these capabilities advance? It's certainly a fascinating future to think about.